Previously, on the door at the end, photographer Daniel Salgado discovered a door that should never be opened, and a warning carved by those who had already heard it call. That same night, he and his editor Arturo found Arturo's name carved into the wood as well. Arturo backs away, wanting to leave. "We're going." But Daniel doesn't answer. He walks toward the altar, remembering the floor plan. The room had to be behind a wall. He knocks on the bricks one by one. Knock, knock, knock. One of them sounds hollow. He shines his light on the spot. "Here." Together they pull out old bricks until they open a narrow gap. Behind it stands a wooden door with no handle, only a lock. Daniel takes out the key. The number 13 gleams under the flashlight beam. He inserts it into the lock and begins to turn it. The lock clicks. Arturo steps back. "Daniel, wait." But it's too late. The door swings open, releasing the smell of a house sealed shut for decades. They step into a small room, a table, a chair, a bed, and dozens of photographs covering every wall. The images show men, women, children, elders, all different people, yet all photographed in front of the same convent door. Daniel goes through the photographs one by one. The dates vary: 1962, 1970, 1983, 1991, 2004. He freezes at one image. It's himself, entering the convent that very afternoon. The date on the back reads August 19, 2026, before he ever arrived. Arturo lights up a corner. Another photo, larger and more recent, shows the two of them entering that very room together, dated that same day. "We're being watched." A sound breaks the silence. The chair by the table begins to scrape across the floor by itself, inch by inch, as if someone invisible were sitting down. A voice rises from the darkness. "They've arrived." Arturo grips Daniel's arm. The voice presses on. "You took long enough." Daniel asks who is there. A breath answers from somewhere in the room, the one who guards the door. Arturo shouts, "Show yourself." Only silence follows. A photograph falls from the wall, the same priest Daniel saw earlier in the truck, dated 1931, with a phrase written on the back, "The first." Daniel starts to understand. It's not a person. "I think the door is what matters." A sharp thud behind them. The room's door has slammed shut on its own. Both men try to force it open. It won't budge. The voice returns, much closer now. One enters. One stays. And one remembers. Arturo pounds on the door, screaming for help. Daniel watches the wall. The names written on it start to change. Some vanish, others appear. Then he sees something that freezes him completely. Arturo's name slowly begins to fade. Beneath it, another appears, Daniel Salgado. And below his own, a third, Mateo Salgado. Daniel feels the world stop. Mateo was his father, dead for 15 years. Arturo asks who that is. "My father," he answers, as the flashlight flickers 3 times. Behind them, a voice Daniel would recognize 1,000 years from now, "Son." He closes his eyes, refusing to turn around. The voice insists, "Son, open the door." He breaks into tears, "Dad." Arturo holds him back, "Your father is dead." The voice answers, "Calm, I'm not dead." Daniel opens his eyes. The door swings open on its own into a dark corridor. At the far end stands a man. It's his father, exactly as he remembered him. The same shirt, the same watch, the same scar above the eyebrow. He smiles, "I was waiting for you." Daniel takes a step forward. Arturo screams, "No." The man's face begins to change, the skin caves in, the eyes darken, the jaw stretches too wide. His voice drops into a deep whisper, "There's still one missing." The lights go out. Screams echo, one after another. When the flashlight turns back on, Arturo is gone, only his coat remains on the floor. On the wall, where his name used to be, a new phrase now reads, "Now only you remain." Daniel bolts toward the exit. Before he can escape, he hears something behind him, a door closing, not the convent's, but the room's. From the other side, someone knocks 3 times. Knock, knock, knock. Daniel recognizes the voice that speaks next, it's his own. "Daniel, don't run, you're already inside." He runs without looking back, cuts through the chapel, crashes into a pew, falls, and immediately gets up, pushing toward the main corridor. He doesn't know what happened to Arturo. He only knows he has to get out. He reaches the main gate and pushes with all his strength. It doesn't move. He pulls out his phone, no signal. He tries calling for help, the call won't even connect. Behind him, slow, dragging footsteps draw closer. He freezes. The footsteps stop. A voice calls out, "Daniel." It's Arturo's voice. "Help me," the voice pleads, from somewhere in the chapel. Daniel wants to go back, but he remembers the warning on the wall, "Now only you remain." He asks where he is. "Down here, in the basement," the voice answers, sobbing. "Daniel, please." He knows it could be a trap, but he can't abandon him. He goes back to the chapel, the back door is still open, and the corridor beyond looks much longer than before. At the end he finds a staircase that appeared on no floor plan, descending into darkness. He turns on his flashlight and starts down. The air turns cold. A strange smell wraps around him, damp earth, rotting wood, and something like old blood. After some 20 steps he reaches a narrow corridor with walls covered in hundreds of photographs, families, workers, a girl in front of the convent, all dated, some over 100 years old. Among them he finds a photograph of Arturo, alone, barely 20 years old. The date reads 1988. Arturo never mentioned having been there. On the back, a phrase, "He was already here." A noise at the end of the corridor startles him. He calls out for Arturo. No one answers. He keeps walking until he reaches an iron door. He opens it. Behind it lies a huge room with a table in the center, covered in dozens of files bearing the names of missing people, many never reported. He opens one, Elena Vargas. Inside are photographs, documents, and a small tape recorder. Daniel turns it on. A woman's voice begins to speak, "It's Elena. If someone finds this, it means the door has opened again. I don't know how long I've been here. But I learned something. The convent isn't haunted," the recording says, breath trembling. That would be easier to explain. There are people living beneath the convent. They aren't ghosts. They're people who have been down here for years. When someone enters, they watch, they follow, they learn their voice, their memories, their habits. Daniel remembers every voice he's heard that night. Then they make the person disappear, the recording cuts out. Daniel taps the device until it plays again, but there's something worse. Some of them have been here so long they no longer remember who they were. He feels someone behind him. He turns, nothing. The recorder continues, "If you hear the voice of someone you know, don't answer. Because it isn't that person." The recording ends. A knock breaks the silence, coming from a door at the far end of the room. Knock, knock, knock. Daniel calls out, "Arturo." Silence. Then, "Daniel, it's me." He walks toward the door and stops in front of it. He asks the voice to tell him something that only the two of them would know. After several seconds, the voice answers, "When we were kids, your father used to take you to the convent." Something Daniel had never told anyone. How do you know that? He asks, stepping back. Because I was there, the voice answers, the first time your father came down. Your father didn't die 15 years ago, the voice says. Daniel feels his entire body go cold. You're lying, he answers, as the voice begins to laugh, a dry, hollow laugh that isn't Arturo's. Another voice appears, his father's. Son, don't open it. Don't trust him. Daniel opens his eyes. Dad. I'm not where you think. He asks where he is. Below, the voice answers. Desperate, he demands to know what he did. I tried to get them out. Who? All of them. He cries, why did you never tell me anything? Because I wanted to keep you away. Then why did you come back? His father's voice trembles, because they called me. Daniel presses his hand against the door, begging to see him. His father insists, don't open it. If you open it, they'll come out. Suddenly something slams against the door from the other side. Bang! The wood begins to buckle as dozens of voices scream in unison, open. 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 Daniel flees down the corridor, but something has changed. The photographs are gone, replaced by dozens of identical doors. He has no idea which one leads out. A voice calls out from behind, Daniel. It's Arturo, at the end of the corridor, clothes covered in dust, a wound on his forehead, holding a lamp. Daniel runs toward him but stops before reaching him. He asks where they first met. At the newspaper, Arturo answers, smiling. No, Daniel says. The smile vanishes. You're not Arturo, he states. The figure advances. Of course I'm Arturo. Arturo has a scar on his right hand, and the figure's hand is unmarked. Daniel retreats, demanding to know who he is. The figure raises its face, someone who has known you since before you were born. Your father told us a lot about you. Terrified, Daniel throws open the first door he finds, a small room with a chair in the center. A man sits on it. He raises his flashlight and drops it from his hands. It's his father, older, thinner, bearded, with sunken eyes. But alive. Daniel breaks down crying, Dad. His father lifts his head, you shouldn't have come. Daniel rushes to embrace him. I thought you were dead. To them, I am. He asks who they are. The ones who live down here. How many? I don't know. Why do they do this? Because they need to get out. Out of where? Out of themselves. Outside, footsteps echo, many of them. His father rises, key 13 in hand, they're coming. We have to reach the main door. Daniel says it's locked. His father shakes his head, the main door isn't locked. Confused, Daniel asks why they can't leave then. His father points into the darkness, because we're not in a convent. We're beneath it. The footsteps stop. Silence. Then, someone knocks on the door, knock, knock, knock. His father turns off the lamp, don't make a sound. The handle begins to turn. His father whispers in Daniel's ear, when it opens, don't look at its face. Why? Because if you recognize who's behind it, you'll no longer be able to tell who you are. The door opens slowly. A familiar voice whispers from the darkness, Daniel. It's Daniel's own voice, saying something he never said, let me in. He stays frozen, the door barely open a few inches, nothing but darkness beyond. His father keeps a hand on his shoulder, don't look. Daniel squeezes his eyes shut. The voice insists, identical to his own in tone, breath, and rhythm, let me in. It isn't an impression or a recording. His father whispers, silence. The door opens a little further. Something enters, first a hand, then an arm. Daniel hears footsteps drawing closer, 1, 2, 3. The creature stops less than a meter away, Daniel, look at me. He squeezes his eyelids shut while his father trembles, don't answer it. The voice changes, now it's his mother's. "Son, it's me." Then Arturo's, "Help me." Then a frightened child's, and an unknown woman's pleading. All of them speak at once. All of them beg him to open his eyes. Daniel finally understands what his father meant. They don't want to kill him, they want him to recognize someone, because if he does, that thing can become that person. Finally the sounds stop. "It's gone," his father whispers. Daniel slowly opens his eyes. The room is empty, the door still open. He asks what that was. His father, exhausted, sits on the bed. "I don't know. When I first got here, I also thought they were people. And they're not. Some of them were." Daniel asks how long he's been there. 15 years, his father answers, eyes lowered. "I came looking for someone." "Who?" "Your brother." Daniel freezes. "I don't have a brother." His father insists, through tears, "You did. He was older than you. That was the first thing they made you forget." He hands him an old photograph, young Daniel next to another boy, both smiling in the convent courtyard. "Who is he?" "Your brother, Matteo." The boy in the photograph has his same eyes. What happened to him? He disappeared here. Something inside Daniel begins to stir, a tiny memory of a rainy afternoon. His brother holding his hand, a door, a voice, a man dressed in black, and then, nothing. He opens his eyes. "I was here." His father nods, "Yes. You were 9 years old." Struggling to breathe, he asks why he can't remember. "Because they don't only imitate voices," his father says, tapping his own head, "they can alter memories too." Daniel remembers the photograph dated 1989 he found earlier. "Is my brother here?" His father falls silent. "Dad, tell me the truth. The last time I saw him, he was 16. A chill runs through him. How could he grow up here? "Down here, time doesn't work the same," his father answers, right as the sound of footsteps moves through the corridor. His father turns off the lamp. "We have to go." "Where?" "To the old exit." He opens a small door behind the bed, a narrow tunnel that barely fits one person. They enter and walk for several minutes. The tunnel walls are covered in photographs, and Daniel begins recognizing faces, neighbors, workers, even an old teacher from his school. All of them had disappeared, all of them had been there. At the end of the tunnel they find a metal door. His father pulls out another key. This one opens the exit. He inserts it. It doesn't turn. He tries again. Nothing. "It can't be," his father mutters, examining the lock. "What? They changed it." Fear returns to Daniel. "Who?" His father points to the wall. A new photograph shows Daniel entering the tunnel that very afternoon, with a phrase written beneath it, "He already knew you were coming." A noise behind them. His father turns. At the far end of the tunnel stands a motionless silhouette. "Who's there?" The figure takes a step toward them. Daniel raises the flashlight, slowly lighting up the face of the figure approaching through the dark tunnel. It was Arturo, but with a scar on his hand that hadn't been there before. What Daniel is about to discover is worse than he ever imagined. Part 3, the finale of The Door at the End, is coming very soon. Subscribe to No Mires Atrás so you don't miss it.